Oh, this is what it looks like. So at least I don't have to explain where that funny accent is from. My name is Gido. Sometimes I feel that I even make my CV up because it's been such a weird ride during my life. Just for you so I can get an idea of who I am. I started off as a ballet boy. Danced for one of the biggest ballet companies in Europe after I've been told if I were to keep on dancing I would be sitting in a wheelchair. That was at the age of 18, and for some reason, I still don't know why, I didn't believe my doctor back then. I just knew I loved dancing. I knew I just wanted to keep on going, and surely, he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he was the most famous professor back in Munich back then. And my director in the school that I was training in, luckily she kept sending me off to doctors and doctors and doctors, but all we could see was this high arthritis in my hips. And so I went through rehab and rehab and rehab, but for some reason I never took it seriously. To make a long story short, 2 years later, I was already dancing in Munich in that big company. And the arthritis I was supposed to have in my hips was gone. Nobody to this day doesn't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I just know that I lost my x-rays. I was sitting on the train, I lost my x-rays, and I was going to yet another doctor. Actually, first of all, a friend of mine said, maybe it's your back. I was like, what? What do you mean my back? I've been examining my hips, I had needles in my hips, I had contrast in my hips for years and years and years. What do you mean my back? He was an American. We didn't have chiropractors at the time in Germany, not many. And he said, well, maybe just have it checked out, because I used to have that same pain. So I went to a naturopath at the time, and I started taking my shirt off, and it was about here. And she said, of course you have pain. You're completely crooked. So she rearranged me, and the pain was gone. For about 5 minutes, because I've been dancing on, how my body was built for about 3 years by that time, but I knew I was going to be better at that point. See, I had no idea I was going to talk about this, but I love this space. I love being out of my comfort zone because I never know what's going to happen. And for me, that was really the starting point of what I do today. Because I started to not believe the stories I'm being told. And I started many years later to not believe the stories that I'm telling myself. And if I can give you any advice tonight, and I want to come back to that later, but I want to plant this now, is don't believe the stories that run around in your heads. When I grew up, I do today because I like to help, because I see beyond the story, because I see potential. It's a bit annoying because very often I fall in love with potential. I see someone and I see what's possible for them, and I see their light, I see their magnificence. And very often they just don't live up to that for themselves, which is a shame. But I fall in love with that potential, and suddenly you have a drug addict on your side, and you just say, oh, there's so much potential. And I think that is, on one hand, the biggest gift we can give to people, and the biggest gift I can give to my clients is to look beyond their story, to already know whatever they come to me with is their story isn't true. Now, I started my life like this. When I was about 6, 7 years old, I kept telling my parents, I annoyed the hell out of them, telling them how to run their lives. I told them, oh, cut the fat off your ham, and, Mom, you should stop smoking, and don't use margarine, don't even use butter, it's not healthy for you. I was annoying. I just thought life could be better. I'm still annoying, I just get paid for it today. So, it's a good place to be in. But because I was like that, I didn't connect. I always felt like I was different. I recently discovered that most people feel they're different. And I see people nodding. Because I believe that fear that we're different from everybody else is one of the biggest backholder on the planet. And yet everybody feels different. So we're actually not different. We're all the same in feeling different. But as a boy, I felt different. I couldn't connect to anyone. And then it happened. My mom said something to me that I only recently discovered was the root of, I want to say, all evil in my life. And it only just popped up a couple of years ago. My mum looked at me and I was making a comment, I don't even know what it was, and my mum said to me, you know, it's no wonder you have no friends because you're so arrogant. Yeah, wow. You try to be friendly, you try to please everybody. You certainly don't try to be arrogant all your life. But what it really did is, it left me believing, not only that I was arrogant, I mean, you know, I knew I was different and I connected, but I connected differently. But it made me believe that I wouldn't have any friends. And I carried that belief until I was way past 40. And then, about 4 years ago, I was back in Germany. I was playing a show called La Cage aux Folles in my hometown. And it was a bit in the press, and suddenly friends appeared, people from school appeared. And when I was about 14, I changed schools. And for the first time ever, I had people actually interested in me as a friend. Never happened before, and I just thought it was the oddest concept. What do you mean you want me to play football with you? First of all, I don't play football, but okay, I'll do it. Shot a goal in the own goal. But they didn't ask me again, but they were still friends. And so, one night I was going into that theater, and one of my old classmates, one of the coolest kids in town, his name was Dutzi. His name was Stefan Deutz, we called him Dutzi. And he was one of those guys, you know, he was class speaker, school speaker, head boy, you would call them here. I mean, everybody wanted to be like him. He was one of the, you know, smoking behind the buildings, you know, just one of the two really cool guys. And he was there trying to buy a ticket for himself and for his daughter. And so I started talking to him, and he, at some point he said, you know, Gido, when you came into that school, now I had my collar up, spiky hair, it was the 80s. It was Spandau Ballet. And he said, you know, when you came into that school, everybody wanted to be like you. That's exactly the look I had on my face. Huh? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, yeah. I said, I always thought you just thought I was different because I was eccentric. I was weird. He said, we did. You were totally weird, but everybody wanted to be like you because you didn't seem to care. I cared so much. It took 25 years to find out I had actual friends that I didn't believe I have. And I never was able to look past that story. I always had in my head, even with my best friends, they're gonna leave me away. They're gonna leave at some point. Because, you know, I don't have friends. In that moment, 25 years of pain fell away. 25 years of loneliness fell away. That moment I understood how powerful a story can be that we keep telling ourselves. So I want to ask you, what story do you still believe in? And what story are you ready to let go of tonight? Thank you very much.